Hey everyone, welcome to the Tips, Taxes, and Discounts lesson. This lesson right here will be so useful in so many parts of your life. So if you're not one to listen and actually want to do the math, today will be different. Today you'll be like, oh, I can see where I would actually use this in my life. So you are going to use the percent strategies that I've taught you in the past to find the tip, the tax, the discount of any amount so that you can be a functioning adult when you grow up. Let's review the different ways that I have taught you how to find the percent of the missing part of a percent problem. Okay, let's remember that you can set up any percent problem as a ratio. You can change the percent to a decimal and times it by the whole amount. Or I've taught you how to quickly find 10%, 50%, or even 25% of a number. So we're going to use those three strategies today to figure out different amounts of tips, taxes, and discounts. When I say a discount, you all know, and you've in real life seen this, right? You have seen stores that have big posters that say 25% off, 50% off, right? Or you've been given coupons that give you a certain percent off. So when you are dealing with a discount, you know that you can subtract that percent from the total because a discount is when you take away an amount. Then we have tax, and probably the best example of tax is when you guys are at Ridley's or at Walmart or buying something at any store and you see the price, you're like, oh, sweet, a candy bar, $1.25. But in your mind, you know that it's not going to cost $1.25, right? Because in Utah, we have a sales tax and we have to pay an additional percentage. I think it's like 6% or 7% or something of whatever the total is on top of the subtotal. So you're very familiar with tax, with sales tax at least, and knowing that you have your total, but then on top of that, you have to pay a sales tax. And a tip, if you've ever eaten out somewhere where there's a waiter or some type of service that is offered to you, they often ask for a tip. And if you're at a nice restaurant or like one of these digital places, they will often tell you how big of a percent you could give and what amount that will be. So for example, this, whatever they had, whatever their subtotal was, if they take 15% of that total whole amount, then it will be $1.99. So you know that you would pay an additional $1.99 on top of whatever it was that you ordered, whatever pizza you got, right? So when you are paying for a tax or tip, these are in addition to your total whole amount. So you need to add whatever percentage you figured out to the original number, to the whole amount that you started with, and then you pay that on top. All right, so let's do some examples. You buy a pair of shoes for $50. But then you have to pay 10% extra for shipping and tax. How do we figure out what our total amount will be? How do we figure out that 10% shipping and tax? Well, as we work today, we're going to do each of the three different strategies, the different ways that I've taught you, and I'm going to let you figure out by the end of the video which strategy you like best. And that might change from problem to problem. But for this example, if we were to solve this mentally, what is 10% of $50? We remember that 10%, you just scoop the decimal over ones. So I'm going to put the decimal at the end because it's not in sight. I put it on the right, and now I scoop it over once. So 10% of 50 is $5. That means my total is going to be the $50 plus an extra $5 for the shipping. That's the mental math way. For me, if I can figure it out that way, that's the quickest, the least amount of work. But you can also set this up doing the equivalent ratios. I put the percent over 100. Now these pair of shoes were $50. That was the total amount of the shoes. That wasn't just for like the shoelace or one pair. That's for both or for one shoe. That's for the whole entire pair. So we're going to put the 50 on bottom. It is the whole amount of the shoes. And now I can find the 10% part that I'm going to pay for tax. And if I look, remember this strategy, divide by 10, and then I can see that, hey, if I times by 5, I get 1 times 5 is $5. So the ratio way also gave me a total of $5. 10% tax was the $5 plus the $50 for the shoes. Okay. Now the decimal way, I'm still going to be looking for 10% of 50. I'm going to change that 10% into 0.10, right? But really I'm going to make it 0.1 because that's going to be a lot easier to work with. And then I can just times that by 50 and I will get 50, but then I'm going to remember, oh, I need to scoop that in. So again, doing it the decimal multiplication way, I get $5 for the tip and $55 total. So none of these required a lot of work. It's just deciding which works best for your brain. We all have different ways of learning. Our brains all think differently. So I'm going to show you these different strategies for you to decide which way works best for you. Do I expect you to have all of this in your notes? Yeah, I do. Until the end, then I'm going to let you narrow it down to whichever you like best. Your mom takes you to a professional to get your hair cut and colored. It's a $120 appointment, and your mom also leaves a 30% tip. Hairdressers are often one of those places where you leave an additional tip, right? So the mental math way, how do I figure out 30% of 120? Well, I know that 10% of 120 would be $12, right? But if I want 30%, well, then I'll just times that by 3 and get $36. Add that tip to the $120 appointment, and I am left with $156 to get my hair done. That's the mental math way. I did 10% 3 different times. Now the ratio way will be the 30 over 100, and again, the whole hair appointment cost me $120. That's the whole amount. Yes, I'm going to find out 30% of that and then add that to the total amount. So that's why 120 goes on bottom. And if I look, not seeing anything good, but I do see that. That's helpful because now I can times by 12. 3 times 12, shocker, it's 36, which means doing it the ratio way gives me another total of 156. The final way is the change to a decimal way. So I want to find 30% of 120. I'm going to change my 30% to 0.3 and then times that by 120 and get 360, but I'm going to remember to scoop. So I get 36. 36, add that to my total, I get 156. Okay, so no matter which way you do it, your haircut and color is going to cost you $156. Now let's do one where we have a discount. Remember with discounts, this is not, we're not going to pay an extra 25%. The company is actually offering to take out 120 or take out the 25% from whatever you're purchasing. This example is $15 pack of colored pencils, discounted 25%. So above the colored pencil it says 25% off, right? Now you got to figure out, well, how much is that actually? So let's find out what 25% of $15 is. The mental math way, 25%, I can do that by dividing by 4, correct? And then that would give me that, which gives me a remainder of 3. Bring down the 0, and now I can do a 7 for 28. Still have a remainder, so bring down another 0. And that will give me 5. So 25% of $15 is $3.75. Now that's not how much the color pencils cost, right? That's how much they're discounting. So that's how much they are taking away. So I am going to subtract that 25%. I'm going to make sure I line up my decimals and also make sure, that I regroup So I get the correct answer. It looks like I will be left with $11.25 is how much the colored pencils will now cost after the discount. But then there'll probably be a tax added, right? So be aware of that. All right, so the ratio way, do the percent. I almost put 15 over 100. That won't work. The only thing that gets to go over 100 is what has the percent. So 25 over 100. The whole colored pencils is 15, so that's going to go on bottom. And then I'm finding the 25% part that I'm going to take out. And looking for, I can't do my divide by 10 trick, can I? But I can divide, I can simplify this. And I'll get 1/4. There's not a relationship here, but there is here, isn't there? Yay, we got a 4 relationship. So from bottom to top, we're getting smaller. So I know I will need to divide by 4. 4 divided by 15, we already did that over here. So we know that it's going to be $3.75. I'm going to take that away from 15 because it's a discount, and I'll get $11.25. Now how would the decimal way work? Well, we would change 25% to a decimal, and then we would times that by the whole, which is 15. I bet we'll get $3.75, but let's see. 5 times 1 is 5, 6, 7. Let's see if I make any mistakes this lesson. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Ooh, looks like there will be no mistakes made. It was like making a mistake right when I said that, huh? All right, $3.75 is the 25%, but let's make sure because it's a discount, we take it away from the 15 and subtract and get $11.25 for our total. Okay, what if you have a problem like this, where you have a $500 trampoline that's discounted by 60%? Wow, that means it's more than half off, right? But then you're going to remember, okay, yeah, but there is a sales tax that we need to add at the end. How much does the trampoline cost now? Well, let's first take the discount, then we'll add the sales tax. So let's not find the 5% from the $500 trampoline, because the trampoline is not going to be $500, is it? It's going to be 60% of $500. So let's figure out what that is. Do we want to do it the 3 different ways? If I look at this, I think I might, if I set it up the ratio way, is there anything really nice? Yeah, I think the ratio wouldn't be bad at all, because look, just times by 5. So that means that it will be $300 off. Wow, which means that the trampoline will only cost $200. Does that make sense? Yeah, it totally makes sense. That's more than half off, and 60% is more than 50%. So it makes sense that they would only cost $200. That's cool. So now let's find the 5% sales tax for that. If we did it the ratio way again, are we getting at something pretty? Let's see, the total is 200, right? Yep, the total amount now of the trampoline is 200. So the ratio way might be good. You might also want to do it the decimal way, because that doesn't look like it would be too bad. I'm always partial to the ratio way though, but I'm going to let you decide to do this any way you'd like. I'm going to do the ratio way because that's an easy double relationship there. So the 5% tax is just $10, making the entire trampoline cost with the sales tax $210. It's a pretty sweet deal there. All right, you now know how to find a tip, a tax, and a discount 3 different ways. I'm not going to require all 3 of those ways on your practice, but I do want you to find a way that works for you. So use any of those strategies. Remember, with tips and taxes, you add that to the amount. Discounts, you're going to take it away. You ready to try one on your own? A 5% tax is added onto a $75 online order. How much is the total order? Give it a shot, and then I'll give you the answers later. All right. Did you get it? I can't find my face anymore. Am I still there? Here's what I did it. I did it the ratio way, and then I also tried it the decimal way. Either way, I got $3.75. Then, because this was a tax, I added it and got the $78.75. So you got? If you didn't get it that way, what mistake did you make along the way? Try to do it both ways so you could check your mistake. I didn't do it the mental math way, but you could have done like 10% and cut that 10% in half, or done 1% times by 5. Either way, figure out something that works and have fun practicing this real life skill.